Hello all, today we would be starting with our prelim series for 2021. Every Tuesday we would be meeting at 6 p.m. with some of the important questions for your prelims preparation, be it CSAT or be it the GS section. Now today we would be covering the section on polity. We would be having 10 questions. Most of our questions are based on NCERT as of now. Current affairs would be covered in a separate lecture or a separate session. So stay tuned with this Testing Tuesdays every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Now we have the first question here. The first question says, what are the functions of the Constitution? So whenever you are answering the question, mention the question number and the right option. Also see whether the question says there is a correct option or an incorrect option. Now this question is from 11th NCERT Constitution at Work. Be very particular when you are reading NCERTs because some of the statements are directly from the question paper, directly from the textbook. So in the question paper you would see exact same sentences that would be there, and there would be smaller changes or very subtle changes that you could see with some of the words that would be there that would change the meaning of the content. So I am looking for answers. All of those who have the answer, please mention those in the chat box. Mention the question number and the correct choice along with it. All of the questions that we would be discussing is from the sections on NCERT and the very important topics of political science and polity. You need to mention the question number along with the correct answer. Most of the questions are statement based, so you would have multiple statements that would be there. Anubhav and Abhinav have the answer as of now. They have an answer 1, 2 and 3. I request Anubhav to read the answer, read the question again. Do you think C would be the right option? Now here, let's talk about, they are mentioning C as the right option. Okay, so let's say that 1, 2 and 3 are the statements. Let's talk about 2 first. The Constitution specifies who has the power to make the decision and decides how the government would be constituted. That's totally a correct statement. Then Constitution definitely sets some limit on what government can impose onto the citizens and what are the limits which are fundamental. So that is again true. Then the last statement says the Constitution is helping to enable the government to fulfill the aspirations of the society and create conditions of just society. That is one of the very fundamental aspects of a constitution. But I request you to read the statement 1 again. Any further answers? Okay, so Prince Pankaj has another answer. Karthik has another answer, and still I am looking for a right answer. Right, Kavya has the right answer here. Now the thing is, Constitution provides a basic set of rules, and that is, Constitution provides a basic set of rules that allows minimum coordination among the members of the society. It's not maximum, it's the minimal coordination. Now why does it says minimal? Because the rules are the minimal number of rules or the minimum number of rules that would impose a governance or that would help in the governance is set by Constitution. So beyond that, things would be allowed, and therefore it's not the minimum rules for governance, but it's the minimum rules for governance, not the maximum rules for governance. So it definitely allows for minimal coordination, and the basic rules are set based on the minimal aspect. So B here is the right option. This is directly from the NCERT section. Okay, the next question here is, which of the following statements regarding to the governor is or are correct? Now read the question very carefully. It asks which of the statements are correct, not incorrect. Okay, now looking for the right answer. As we move forward, there would be one of the surprise questions that would be there, and the first correct answer for the surprise question would receive a gift from our side, or a souvenir from our side rather. Now we have question 2. I request you to mention mention the question number along with the right option. Okay, Kavya again has the right answer. Good going, Kavya. So here we have the two statements. Based on the constitution, a person can be appointed as a governor only for one state. Now, as per Article 153 and the definition that is for the governor, the Article 153 of the Constitution says that governor can be appointed for two or more states at the same time, and nothing in the Constitution shall prevent such an appointment. So statement 1 goes incorrect. Statement 2. Based on the Constitution, no person shall be eligible for election as governor unless is qualified for election as a member of state legislative assembly is also an incorrect statement, because under Article 158 of the Constitution, the conditions of the governor in office, it clearly says that the governor shall not be the member of either the House of Parliament or the House of the Legislature, and therefore statement 2 is also not correct. So which of the following are correct statements? None of the above would be the right option. I hope this is correct. Jimshana has a question about live class timings. Jimshana, we have a live class every Tuesday and Saturday at 6 p.m. in the evening. So we meet Tuesday and Saturday at 6 p.m. on Examrace, Thursdays at 6 p.m. on Examrace Hindi. So that's our schedule for live classes. If you have any questions, any doubts, you can bring in those here. Also, our Tuesday classes would be the testing Tuesdays, where we would be bringing in questions for you. Okay. So I hope this question is clear. We have the next question for us. Now the next question is regarding objective resolution given in the Constitution. Now, which of the following statements are incorrect is the question. So read the question again very carefully, just to give you an outline, and those from other countries who are joining, especially students from Bangladesh, Sri Lanka and Pakistan who have been there. Objective resolution is a resolution which was presented by Nehru when he was trying to explain the underlying concepts of the Constitution of India, and this objective resolution later on became the preamble of the Constitution. So it was anonymously adopted on 22nd January 1947 and later on was integrated as part of the preamble of the Constitution. Now, which of the following statements are incorrect is the question here. So I am looking for question 3, right options. So question 3, right options. Okay, Kavya again has the first option. Which of the following are incorrect? Great going, Kavya. So, right, none of these is incorrect. That means all of these are correct. So a lot of students also get confused here while we are mentioning correct and incorrect. So when I say correct or incorrect, when I say it's incorrect and none of these, that means all of the statements are correct statements. Two negatives make a positive. Okay, I hope I am not confusing you further, but the idea is minorities, backwards and tribal areas shall be provided adequate safeguards. The territorial integrity of the republic and the sovereign rights on the land, sea and air would be maintained. Also, law and justice of the civilized nation would be taken into account for the welfare of mankind. Besides that, we also say India shall be a union of the British Indian territory, the Indian states and the parts of it. Then India would be considered as an independent sovereign and republic unit. We also say that all the powers of the sovereignty of the sovereign and the independent India and the Constitution shall flow from the people itself. So it would be a kind of democratic setup. And bringing social, economic and political justice for all is again important. So all the three statements here would be the correct option. Correct. Okay, let's move on to next question. Now the next question here is a very direct question. We have our Constitution, which is, I would say, amalgamation of ideas from various different constitutions. So which of the matches are correct match here and which of the following are wrongly matched. So you have to identify the incorrect matches here. So there would be few which would be correctly matched. There would be few that would be incorrectly matched. You have to identify the right matching for each of those. So I am looking for question 4, the right answer again. Now, towards the end of this question, I would be providing you with a table that is a quick summary of the things we have taken from different constitution. So that is something that you would memorize. Great, Kavya. Again, Kavya has the right answer. So you have only one of the correct options, that is here Canada, from which we have the Canadian Constitution, from which we have the residual powers. Now, from British Constitution, we have derived the first past the post system. Now, you might be wondering what it is. Don't worry, we have another question on it coming soon. Okay, Australian Constitution has from where we have derived the concept of joint sitting. Irish Constitution, we have derived the concept of election of president. Okay, and from US Constitution, we have derived the system of the post for vice president. Now here, we have a list of sources from where what all things we have derived into the system, and that has been given. So you can have a quick snapshot or a kind of memory note for this sources. Very, very important. Very direct question from your NCRTs again, and this is something which is a very, very direct and obvious question that is there. Coming on to next question, plebiscite, what it is. Now we have 4 of the statements that are there given. Now these are various processes that have been part of the legislature. Now what process is named by what name is again important. So what is plebiscite would be one of those, and then we would discuss the answers and the name for the remaining of those. Okay, so we have the name for each of those. I'm just waiting for the right answer to come for question number 5 here. Question number 5, looking for the right answer. Okay, so this is a very, very simple question based on definition. Usually you have questions like this which are coming for your economic section, mainly the definitions, the concepts, and similarly again for political science where there are certain direct questions that are coming here. I am looking for correct answers for question number 5. Any answers? Okay, Kshitij is still looking for a right answer. Okay, so I believe I should have kept this question as a surprise question. Anyways, so what is plebiscite? Plebiscite is a method where we are trying to obtain an opinion of the people which is issued in for any issue which is of public importance. So it is usually aimed to solve any kind of territorial dispute that is there. However, the remaining 3 statements that are there also have certain meaning. For example, referendum is a process where we are trying to refer to the electorate to settle out any kind of dispute that is there or any kind of disapproval of the law that is there. So, referendum is the process where settlement is done by direct voting method. However, there is a method by which people can propose the bill to the legislature. So, any kind of adaptation to the change that is there, I would say, is what it is, an initiative. And then we have a method where we can remove a representative or an officer, which is known as recall. So, all of these 4 statements are actually definitions of certain terms which are used in legislative processes, and the meaning of these we have explained. So in a simple process, if I want to keep, let's say if the voters are trying to adopt to a certain law or adopt a change to a law, this would be called as initiative. If they are trying to disapprove a law, it would be called as a referendum. And if they are trying to remove an elected person, this would be called as a recall. And if there is public important matter, a matter of public importance on which opinion has to be sought, it would be known as plebiscite. So that is the correct answer and explanation for this question. I hope that's clear. Okay. Moving forward, our next question is about the first past the post system. Now remember, for a question like this, there is abbreviation that is given. So you have to be very careful about the terminology as well. So this question I am helping here is first past the post system. Now this is a surprise question, looking for the first correct answer for the question number 6 for a surprise gift from Examrace. So looking for a right answer for question number 6. I am waiting for the right answers here. Okay, so we also need to understand that there is a significant difference between the first past the post system and the proportional representation. So what we need to understand is we need to focus on what is the right option. There are answers coming in. For question number 6, we are looking for answers. Please mention the question number along with the correct answer that you are mentioning. I am not sure whether you are mentioning the answers for question 5 or question 6. Okay, so Kavya again has the first correct answer. Great, Kavya. Please provide your address to the email ID in the chat box. Okay, so here let's understand the concept first. The first past the post system is a concept where consider this to be a running track. We'll understand this with the animation in a while, and the person who crosses first would be the winner. So in this, what we need is very small constituencies that should be there. So large geographical areas should be demarcated by constituencies, and what we need to understand is the entire country should not act as a single unit here. Okay, so first option becomes incorrect. Every constituency elects only one representative, and the parties get the seats in the legislature in proportion of the percentage of the votes that they get. Now this is a explanation for proportional representation. Let's understand. So here basically 2 only would be the right option. Now let's understand this with the help of a quick animation. So here we have a track, as we said, a running track, and 4 people are running simultaneously. Consider these to be 4 parties running, and then the 4 parties contesting the elections, and the party that first crosses, or the candidate from any of the party that first has the maximum number of votes, would be the person who would be declared elected. So the only criteria is who crosses the post line first would be the first past the post system. Now note, this is a non-proportional representation system. Now what you would say is a proportional representation system. So proportional representation system is again simple. We have 3 parties. So let's say I am taking example of 5 different states from India, and each of the state have party A which receives 40% of the vote, party B which receives 30, and party C which receives again 30. Now the party A candidate in all of the states would be the candidate who would be selected based on the first past the post system. Now when it comes to the representation in India, what would happen? Each of the party would have their candidate that would be the one candidate who would be the winning candidate from each of the states. So 40%, the party that won 40% from each of the state would be actually the one which would be coming to the center, and therefore this party in the center would be a non-proportional representation because all of the candidates would be from the same party system. So this is again a elaboration of the non-proportional representation system. But what would happen in a proportional representation? In a proportional representation, let's say each of the person is casting the vote based on mixed ballot. So what would happen? A person would cast 2 votes. One would be in the name of the candidate, the other would be in the name of the political party. So let's say from the local area, I believe that candidate A would be a good candidate, but he belongs to a political party X. But when it comes to the political party, I believe X is not a good political party. But for local candidate, I believe the candidate A from the party X is good. But at the national level, I believe party Y should be a prominent party. So what would happen in that case? My vote for the candidate would be different and my vote for the party would be different. Now when there is a representation, when there is a proportional representation that would be there, what would be the case? So proportional representation, let's say it says 60, 20, 20. That means 60%. So each of the candidates who are winning in each of these 5 states constitute 40%. And those 40%, all of those candidates that are winning would not go as 100% at the center, but would be subsumed in this 60%. Because I need to give representation to other parties as well. So for this 20 and 20, I have the quota for, I have the representation for other political parties as well. And therefore, at the center level, it would not be a case where there would be just a single political party that would be there, but there would be 60% candidates from the winning party and 20% candidate from the other parties that would be there. And this is a system which we call as a proportional representation. However, this which we said where only one party would be dominant would be a non-proportional representation. And this has been obtained from first past the post, which we have already discussed. So great going, Kavya. Looking to have you further with more questions. Now the next question is a very interesting concept. This talks about the various types of majority. A very important concept. We would be covering a separate lecture on this concept sooner. So what we need to understand here is the difference between absolute majority, effective majority, simple majority and special majority. The question here is a simple numerical for most of you. So looking for the correct answer for question number 7. I am still waiting for the correct answer for question number 7. Question 7, looking for the right answer. I think maths has come in and has created a little problem. Okay, no issues. So what we need to understand here is a simple concept of special majority. What actually special majority says? Special majority says nothing but says that 2/3 of the members present and voting should constitute or should be supported by more than 50% of the total strength of the house. So here, let's say if the total strength in a student's community is 245, so minimum 50% of that should be present. So from 245, let's say 120 something should be present, 122 should be present, but here 150 students are present. So we meet the first criteria, that is 50% presence that should be there. Now, of the candidates that are present and voting, 2/3 members should vote. So the vote received should be 2/3 of the present and voting. How much is present and voting? 150 is present and voting. Finding out 2/3 of it is minimum 100. Now here 101 votes are received. So this is an example of special majority. As I mentioned before, we would consider the types of majority again in a separate lecture. Very important concept. Just to give you a brief idea, this is what is a special majority. 2/3 of the members present and voting with more than 50% of the total strength that should be present in the house. Simple majority is a simple majority where more than 50% of the members would be present and voting. No other criteria that is required for simple majority. Effective majority means more than 50% of the effective strength of the house should be there. This implies that out of the total seats, we are subtracting the seats which are empty, which are vacant. So I remove the seats which are vacant and that gives me the effective strength. Of that effective strength, 50% should be present and voting, and therefore we call it as effective majority. And the last is absolute majority, and absolute majority is a majority of which turns out to be absolute in number. Okay, so any number 50% of it plus 1 would be considered as the absolute majority. So the most common majority we would say in parliament in India is the simple majority. Most of the businesses are done through simple majority, but there are specific cases that are there for special majority, for effective majority, and those would be covered in a detailed class separately. But as I mentioned, it's a very important topic that is there. The next question talks about Chief Election Commissioner and which of the following statements are incorrect regarding the Chief Election Commissioner. So we have to find out the incorrect statements here. Again, note the sentence formation is exactly as per the NCERTs. So be very particular while you are reading NCERTs. We are asking incorrect statements, not the correct statements here. So looking for correct answers for question number 8. Now, just to give you a background information by the time you are answering the question. So Election Commission of India is a permanent constitutional body that has been there since the constitution and it has been established in accordance with the constitution since 1950s, and its golden jubilee was celebrated in 2001. The idea is it would have, originally the idea was to have a chief election commissioner. However, later on 2 election commissioners were appointed for it. They were appointed during the time of 1989 to 1990. Okay, so 1989 to 1990 you had 2 chief election commissioners that were adopted. However, this was again removed, and later on from 1993 there were again 2 election commissioners that were part of the election commission, and now as of now it remains the same, chief election commissioner plus 2 additional election commissioners that are there. Now based on that we have the 2 statements that are there. So we have lots of answers coming in. So great, all of you have the right option here, Kavya, Kazi and others. Okay, so great. Now understand, the chief election commissioner has more powers than other election commissioner is incorrect. All of them have equal powers in terms of the powers that have been given to the chief election commissioner as well as the other election commissioners. So first statement is incorrect. The second statement is they are appointed by the President of India on advice of not the cabinet, not the Prime Minister, but the Council of Ministers. So statement 1 is incorrect. Statement 1 is incorrect. Statement 2 is again incorrect. So choose the incorrect statement. So we would say both. Now both are correct is a little confusing language that is there. That means based on the question, both of them are incorrect. Okay, so C would be the right option. I hope that's clear. The next question talks about semi-presidential system of governance and which of the following statements are correct based on the semi-presidential government system. So question 9, looking for a right answer again. Okay, now there are 3 forms. One is the parliamentary system, the other is the presidential system, and the third is the semi-presidential system. We have to understand what is the difference between those and the basis of understanding all these 3 forms. So if we talk about country like India, we have parliamentary system where a prime minister has the power. Country like United States where president has a power and has a presidential form of government. However, we do have countries like France where there is semi-presidential system. But the question actually again is, what is semi-presidential system? So semi-presidential system is none the other where both president as well as the prime minister have powers, and the powers or the portfolio we would say are differentiated. For example, in France, president has the portfolio for foreign affairs and defense. However, prime minister has the portfolio for domestic and economic rules. Okay, so here if we look on to the sentences, the first sentence here says the role of the president is ceremonial, which is incorrect. The second statement says the head of the government is usually known as the prime minister. That is correct. Even in a semi-presidential system or a form of government, president and prime minister coexist, but prime minister and the cabinet is responsible for the legislature, and therefore we call them as the head of the government. And then prime minister and the council of ministers are not responsible to legislature is incorrect. The system is based on collective leadership, that is correct. So you have 2 and 4 as the right option. This is a collective leadership of the president as well as the prime minister. So here in this diagram we have the concept that is being explained for democracy. As we mentioned, the parliamentary, presidential and semi-presidential form of government. The parliamentary form where prime minister is the head, a country example is India. Then we have presidential form of government where president has the power, and United States is a classic example. Recently we witnessed the elections for United States and even the impeachment process. So again important for this year. Semi-presidential, as we said, president and prime minister coexist. France is a good example for the same. Now moving on to our last question for today, and this is with respect to Article 74 of the Constitution. Now excuse me, Article 74, based on that you have to choose a statement which is incorrect. So please go through the statements. Venom has a question regarding cutoff for NTSC stage 2. So definitely we do not recommend students about the cutoff, but you should try to focus on the best of the concepts. Okay, then there is okay, so that's the question there. Then moving on to question number 10. There shall be a council of ministers with prime minister at the head to aid and advise the president, who shall exercise in the functions in accordance to the advice that has been given by the president. So first statement here is a statement, first statement here is a statement that has been given. Now the next statement here we have to find out the incorrect. So first is obviously the correct statement. The next is, provided that the president may require the council of ministers to reconsider such an advice, the president shall not act in accordance with the advice tendered after such a reconsideration. So the second statement basically is an incorrect statement, because the president shall act in accordance with the advice that has been given by the council of ministers. So you have 2 as the incorrect option and 1 as the correct option. So this was a very direct and a simple question directly being asked from your NCERTs again. So as we discussed, this was the political science questions we have covered from NCERT, the kind and the variety and the concepts we have covered. We would be covering important concepts of political science in our lectures. Every day we have lectures coming at 11:30 a.m. in the morning and 7:30 p.m. in the evening. We have live sessions Tuesday and Saturdays at 6 p.m. Every Tuesdays we would be covering the testing sections, where we would be bringing in questions from different concepts. Next Tuesday we would be meeting with questions based on geography. So stay tuned for our next update, and in the meanwhile, do practice, work hard, and see you soon. Have a wonderful day ahead.